Good evening. Tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about standing up for Christian and godly values. In Mark 16 and 15, it tells us to go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Now, that's become known as the Great Commission. But it's not just referring to the parts of the gospel that are easy and sound good. It's referring to us preaching the whole gospel to everybody. And most churches have part of this down real well. Most of them preach good tidings, love, joy, peace, and they even talk about heaven very well. But that is where many of them stop. I'd like for you just to ask yourself this question. When was the last time you heard a good old-fashioned fire and brimstone message? Or when was the last time you heard the importance of repentance and living the whole Bible and avoiding all sin, not just the ones that don't offend others? When was the last time you heard a message on deliverance or reconciliation from all sins? This is where the majority of churches and people who call themselves Christian have really failed. In their desire to appeal to all and leave all wanting to attend their church, they fail to talk about certain sins in an effort not to offend anybody or not to chase anybody away. They many times avoid the whole Bible and only talk about those things that are feel-good parts of the Bible. And so many times they avoid the bad parts, the parts that would tend to lead people to leave or people to be offended. Basically those are the moral and some biblical issues that God still expects us to live by, but man has chosen to avoid those. For instance, in 1962, school-sponsored prayers and Bible reading was removed by the Supreme Court from public schools. This was largely in part due to one person named Madalyn Murray O'Hair, while the church and Christians all sat by quietly because they didn't want to offend anyone. Christians in the church would sit by quietly, trying not to offend, while we lost on several issues through time. Another one was the legalized killing of children, or otherwise known as abortion. In 1973, the Supreme Court ruling made it possible for anyone who wanted an abortion to go out and get one. Now, I want to talk about three men in history: Hitler, Stalin, and Chairman Mao of China. We all would agree that those three men were very bad, mean, and murderous men. Under Hitler, during the Holocaust, approximately 11 million people died for no reason other than he just didn't like them. And under Stalin, forced famines that were being conducted to eliminate or ethnic cleanse people from their land. Roughly 20 million people died. And then under Chairman Mao of China, it is estimated that 20 to 30 million people were killed. That's roughly between 50 and 60 million people killed during those times for various reasons. In 1973, when a Supreme Court ruling made it possible for anyone who wanted to get an abortion, since that time through the year 2019, there has been over 50 million abortions take place in America. That's just America alone. That's not the whole world. 50 million in America alone. Where was the church voice or the Christian's voice during that time? Another one was same-sex marriage issue. In 2015, the Supreme Court struck down all state bans of same-sex marriage, legalizing it. Where was the church voice and the Christian voice? These are all against God and His will. Yet the church and many Christians have sat by silently, not to offend anyone or not to upset anyone. Now, even some of those churches and some people claiming to be Christians tend to let those sins slide by. And some, in many cases, agree that they shouldn't have been there. And they even churches have been known to allow homosexuals or lesbians, openly known homosexuals, lesbians, become ministers. People claim to be Christians have allowed homosexuals or lesbians to just be part of their life without any deference to whether that's right or wrong. They just seem to accept it. Today, we are living in a critical time. Many biblical experts feel that 2020 is a critical year and decisions will be made that affect everyone. It is our responsibility as Christians to make sure that we are heard, to speak out against sin and moral issues. I encourage all Christians to be heard, speak out against sin and speak out against wrongdoings. Vote for those who also speak out against the issues we have discussed. It is time for the Christians to rise up and take America back again. We need to stop the tyranny of Satan that is wreaking havoc in our country today. Remember, we should love everyone, but we should not condone or allow them to commit sin openly when we can stand up and stop it. Thank you, and have a good evening and a good week.